A paragraph on a piece of paper, held by a magnet on the refrigerator, said it all. You can't change the mind of an 18-year-old. Cloud of dust coming from a Gran Torino, taking off. Population, one less restless soul, runaway to below.
Hello this lovely evening. Welcome to Unexplained Reality. I am your host, Brian Quinn. Harrison will not be with us tonight. He's enjoying the lovely coastal beaches of South Carolina at the moment. However, he will return next week, if you're lucky. Alright, enough goofing off. So, good evening everybody. Welcome to Unexplained Reality. As I said, Harrison is not going to be here tonight. He is vacationing with his grandparents down on the coast. So he'll be back next week most likely. Hope everybody had a good week. Things have been going good here. I think we have a good show lined up for you, and I hope you enjoy it. Got a few things to go through here. Before we start off, as usual, we've had some comments and some wonderful comments, compliments, I should say, about the show, and very thankful for those. Keep them coming. They help us know that people are listening and like what we're doing. I know we're just a small beans kind of show, but hopefully we'll grow it, and we just enjoy doing it. Just subjects we're interested in, and we're going to keep doing it, and hopefully keep bringing you stuff that you want to hear. Anyways, you can reach us at unexplained.reality@yahoo.com. So hit us up if you got a story, comments, experiences, you just want to talk, you want to be on the show, anything like that, just hit us up. Also, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter. We have a Facebook page. I'm hoping to change that to a group here soon. Maybe this weekend I'll get around to it. It's just been a little busy to do the shows, and with full-time job and stuff, gets in the way sometimes. So anyways, we'll work on that this weekend and hopefully get that changed over. So we'll see how that goes, but you can find us still on Facebook anyways. We have a Patreon page if you'd like to donate, or just want to follow us, find us there, you can. Let's see. We also got a YouTube channel. I got that cleaned up a little bit. I realized that our shows weren't posting out there automatically, so I got that fixed. So they should be showing up out there now. So tonight I've got a couple stories to read about things going on in the news. Of course, people probably heard that today O.J. Simpson made parole after being in prison for 9 years of I guess 33-year sentence, I believe is what he had. So not sure how I feel about that. I haven't really kept up with it, but it'd be interesting to see if he stays straight now. He's been kind of all over the place, so who knows. Also, Chester Bennington, who was the lead man for Linkin Park, I guess he hanged himself today. He's 41 years old, so it's kind of sad. I think he had quite a few children, and it's very sad for them that they lost their father. Not cool. Anyways, let's get into some more crazy news. some stuff everybody wants to hear about. I got some stuff from Phantoms and Monsters here. You probably heard about this one. This one's the alleged picture of Nessie that was taken just, I think it was just a couple days ago. It says people in the West Stirlingshire village of Killearn in Scotland could be giving Loch Ness a run for its money. Main Street resident Jimmy Wright, 66, snapped this odd sight while walking his son's dog on Crow Hill, known locally as the Cowfield. These days, such things cause ripples on social media. Jimmy told the Observer, "I put it on Facebook, but I was taken aback at just how much response it received. It definitely has people talking. People have already likened it to part tortoise, part stoat, and various other creatures." When I came towards it, says Jimmy, who retired as an NHS general manager for mental health services in Glasgow in 2006, I was struck by how prolific it was and took a picture. I thought it looked like a dinosaur. I had been up that way before, but the sight was definitely unexpected. But I put it on Killearn for All Facebook page, and comments began. So I looked at it. I don't know. It's interesting. It almost looks like the head almost looks like an otter or something, but it's very interesting. But not knowing, since it's just a picture, I mean, for all I know, it could be just a stump or something. It's hard to tell, but it's very interesting. Nothing else. Be interesting to see if other people get sightings of it. So that's cool. In fact, this is on phantomsandmonsters.com if you want to go read the whole article and see the picture. There's also, I've seen this week, that there's a new movie coming out. I believe it's on October, from Small Town Monsters team. It's called The Invasion on Chestnut Ridge. I've heard about that incident just a little bit. I think actually from the Sass What podcast, so where they talked about the making of the movie. It's gonna be cool. It sounds like a crazy incident. A lot of weird stuff happened there. Can't wait to see that documentary. So this one is an account from, this is Phantoms and Monsters also. It's The Plains Gargoyle, it's called. It says, on a summer evening in 2013, my son and I were leaving my friend's house, who lived outside of Des Plaines, Illinois. Her driveway is about a quarter-mile long. There are no lights along the driveway. About halfway to the road, my son yelled at, "What is that?" I was startled and slammed on my brakes. "What are you yelling for?" "There in the tree," I answered. "What are you looking at?" I glanced up into the tree and noticed talons wrapped around the large lower branch. The tree was thick with foliage, so it was hard to make out what it was. I figured it was just an owl or an eagle, but as we watched, the tree began to move like there was something very heavy in the tree. The headlights were pointed directly at the tree, so there was some light. Then suddenly a human-like figure dropped from the tree and landed upright on the ground in front of us. It was dark gray in color. As I looked at the clawed feet and muscular legs, I noticed the bottom tip of folded wings behind it. My eyes followed up the human-like body, which looked like dark gray skin. The head and face literally reminded me of a gargoyle. Snarling features and evil looking. The eyes were large and reflected on large color. I believe it also had short horns on the side of the head. OMG, what is that? At the same time, my son begged me, let's go. The beast opened its huge wings and literally took off over the car. Then it says I called my friend on my cell phone as we were driving home, told her what we witnessed. She was totally dumbfounded. She told me that she had never seen anything like that. While driving, I asked asked my son what he thought it was. He called it Batman. I simply responded, okay, but I thought gargoyle or some other mythical creature. I was deeply affected by this beast and have carried this odd feeling that it would remember us. Now I've been reading about the sightings of Chicago and wonder if there's a connection. I fear that a terrible event may occur in the city. My son is in college in Chicago and I work downtown. I'm scared for us. I swear what I've described is true. I wish to remain anonymous and I don't ask any recognition. That's crazy. That's something I don't want to see. Speaking of something else I don't want to see, this comes from cryptozoologynews.com. Michigan woman claims dogman sighting. A woman on Sunday said she spotted a humanoid in Oakland County. 20-year-old LB told Cryptozoology News she was driving on an undisclosed Michigan road when she came upon the unidentified beast. I was driving and looked at the side of the road because I saw something large move. The student reports about the midday encounter. I noticed it right away. The woman described the alleged humanoid as having a dog head and a human body. It looked like a fit man, although covered slightly in hair. It had the head of a gray dog and was very tall, she added. The creature, she explains, was swaying back and forth. It was swaying strangely, like I've never seen a creature move before. She provided the following sketch of the creature by using our online drawing tool contained within the report form. The dogman is reputed to live in northwestern quadrant of Michigan, Michigan's Lower Peninsula. Yeah. If you've been around the subject for long, you've heard about the dogman, and we probably should do an episode on dogman sightings at some point. I believe a couple episodes back we talked about missing persons case on the peninsula. Well, it wasn't. They found him, but it was a very strange case. And I know there was dogmen brought up in that. Sasquatch were brought up about that. Nobody knows for sure, but this drawing, although rough, pretty much follows what she said. It looks like a man with a dog's body. It's crazy. Dogmen stuff is a little freaky. I think the whole Michigan Peninsula up there is a little shady. Makes me not want to visit there. I guess maybe I should, but anyways, let's see what I have next. One more news article here. Alright, let's see what this last one is. This is cryptozoologynews.com also. I'd heard about this on another podcast, I believe, but a police officer records Mothman-like humanoid footage in New Mexico desert. This is from Lordsburg, New Mexico. A law enforcement officer on Friday submitted footage of what he calls an unidentified creature. The officer, who chose to remain anonymous, told Cryptozoology News that he was driving his car south of Lordsburg when his cell phone camera captured the incident this week. I saw this thing out of the corner of my eye, he said. The 38-second video shows a desert back road through the windshield as the car drives through the night. It is at the 5-second mark that a dark-shaped humanoid figure with white bright eyes and long arms flashes the officer. I was close. There is also some strange light and humming sound around the 18-second mark. He explains it was a bright rotating light lamp illuminating around the area, and then it disappeared in a flash. All humming sounds ceased, and this prompted me to review the video. The officer adds that he was left with a strange and eerie feeling after the event. He doesn't believe it was a bear because he says there are no bears in the desert terrain in southern New Mexico. I was armed to the teeth, but believe me, I had no desire to walk in the dark, desolate mountain terrain to figure out what this thing was. Yeah, I looked at the video, and I had a hard time with it. Maybe I should go back and look at it again, but you can see something. You see something like a light flash, but I couldn't make out a figure or anything. So, but you can check it out, cryptozoologynews.com, and see for yourself. The video's in the link there. I mean, in the article itself, it's embedded in there. All right, so that's what I have for tonight for news. So we'll roll right into our episode. All right, sorry about that. I have my throat's drying out tonight. Keep having to get water. So tonight's episode is based off a number of things, a number of sources. I've watched quite a few documentaries on it recently, and I'm reading a book by Stanton Freeman, and the subject is the Majestic 12. If you've been around this, if you're interested in UFOs and you've been around the UFO phenomena for past couple of years, or even any kind of time, if you dug into it, you've heard of the Majestic 12 or MJ12. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So the story kind of begins on June 24th, 1947. And this happened in the skies around Mount Rainier, Washington. There was an American aviator and businessman named Kenneth Arnold was flying a plane, and he witnessed 9 unidentifiable flying objects flying together. He refers to those objects as being like plates or saucers in shape, and that their flight behavior is almost like a plate or saucer skipping on the water. He referred to one of those objects as being a flying wing or crescent shaped also. Arnold's sighting was really the first broadly publicized UFO sighting in the U.S. And kind of, through history, there's been sightings, and way back in ancient times, there was, there's speculation that some of the cave drawings might be showing UFOs or extraterrestrials in the way they're portrayed in these paintings on walls, and even some historical religious paintings show some suspicious stuff in the sky, and people have interpreted them as being aliens. But regardless, in modern times, the Kenneth Arnold sighting is kind of what kicked off the whole craze. It was the most broadly publicized UFO sighting, or the first broadly publicized UFO sighting in the U.S. His sighting was followed by hundreds more sightings that were witnessed over the next few days and weeks all across the country. There's just tons and tons, hundreds of articles in newspapers from that time period where people witnessed flying discs, witnessed strange anomalies that they couldn't explain. So they were chalked up as unidentified flying objects. So then, in early July of the same year, 1947, there's a rancher named Mac Brazel. He contacts, I think he contacted local law enforcement, but eventually it got to Roswell Army Airfield, and he reported that he found wreckage of what appears to be a crashed saucer or disc. Now, if you back up, I've read that he actually found this wreckage like in mid-June, maybe mid to beginning of June. I think mid-June. Him and his son had found it, and he kind of said, I'll check this out later. I got stuff to take care of. And it was around July 4th before he got back out there. And then July 7th of 1947, he had the Roswell Army Airfield people come out, investigators come out. So he leads investigators to a crash site that is about a mile in length of all the debris that's everywhere. And it's interesting because some of the debris is described like I-beams with this weird like hieroglyphic writing written in them. I think there's some saucer shape. It looks like a saucer kind of shape to the metal, and there's a lot of stuff about weird hieroglyphic like writing. There's also this mystery metal. They call it memory metal, and basically you could ball it up. You could like try to put a crease in it. It wouldn't crease, and when you let go of it, it would flex back out into the shape it was in. It wasn't. You couldn't crease it. You couldn't bend it like you could normal metal. So it's been referred to as memory metal. So anyways, the investigators box up some of the debris and they take it back to their base. The base commander then releases a statement saying that Roswell Army Airfield is in possession of a crashed flying saucer, and that gets out to the local media. Well, it's not long after that things change, and instruction is sent to Roswell Airfield to have that debris transferred to Wrights Field in Ohio. So this transfer is put in the hands of this guy named Jesse Marcel, who is a military guy in the Army there. And so he has everything loaded up and flown to Wrights Field. However, they stop on the way to Fort Worth Airfield. So they stop in Fort Worth, Texas at this airfield. Some of the debris is taken in to show the general there, General Ramey. And after showing General Ramey the debris that they had in these boxes, the two men, Marcel and Ramey, General Ramey, they leave the room. And I don't know why, but they left the room is what the statements, or what it was, what he said. And when they come back, the debris is gone and has been replaced by torn up weather balloon. It's very obvious that what they've replaced it with is a torn up weather balloon. There's no mistaking it. It was not the stuff he took in there. And so at this point, they start taking pictures of Jesse Marcel holding this torn up weather balloon and debris. And then a statement is released with the pictures that the crash at Roswell was nothing more than a crashed weather balloon. So that kind of, so you get a little bit of publicity there about the crash saucer, but then it's squashed pretty quickly because they claim, this wasn't a crash, a flying saucer crash. It was a weather balloon that crashed. So, anyways, typical military stuff. They don't want that getting out. So, anyways. After Mac Brazel leads investigators to the crash site at some point after actually, I'm not sure if this was before or after the crash, he led them to the crash site, but sometime in the vicinity of July 7th, he's in town at a local coffee shop, and he just starts chatting with, I guess, normal stuff. He's probably a pretty familiar guy and knows the local. I mean, it can't be a huge town, but he's chatting up with this guy sitting next to him, and he mentions this crash to the guy that he found on the ranch. Well, it just so happens that this guy is a radio station manager, and he contacts a station in Albuquerque to pass along the information. Well, the lady who takes that information from him starts teletyping it in to send it to an ABC affiliate in California. And as she's typing the report, she gets a transmission on her teletype back, and it says, "This is the FBI. Cease your transmission." So, cease and desist. Stop. I'd never heard that. So when I heard that, I was like, this, it blows me away. This is 1947. You wouldn't think that they even had that. So back then, the FBI obviously was monitoring anything going on. I mean, maybe it was just because it was a news agency or whatever, but this is when the craziness kind of starts here. So the Roswell crash and the UFO hysteria, basically with these sightings that happened after the Kenneth Arnold sighting, it kind of gets into hysterics in some regards, because there's all these sightings, and some of them get pretty crazy. People freaking out about them. And anyways, so all this is pretty much bad news for the U.S. in many ways. We just won World War II. So now you have this supposed alien craft that has penetrated our airspace, and apparently unrecognized. They didn't even know. I mean, this guy said, he found the crash in mid-June, and he didn't report it to the beginning of July. They didn't even know about it. If he wouldn't have reported, they would never known, or who knows how long it would have taken them to figure it out. But and the deal is, this crash happened New Mexico, there's a lot of stuff there. You don't want people being able to fly any kind of craft close to these. You have White Sands testing site there. You have the 509 bomber group was based there, and I think that was the group that dropped the bombs, in Japan. And so anyways, you got some high level top secret bases there, and whatever this crash was that most people believe wasn't a weather balloon, crashed out here on this ranch. But it could crash anywhere. It could have crashed close to these bases. And just the fact that it was unnoticed, it's kind of scary, So then not only that, you have the Russians who are working up their espionage machine. They're trying to get things going. This could have been fodder for them to build on, and to possibly, have them give them fodder for working on trying to get into the U.S. and infiltrate. So you have to contain a situation like that. So what the U.S. government did, they did probably what most governments or organized organizations would have done. They formed a special group to investigate this phenomena, and specifically this crash, without, secretly, without the general public knowing and being aware of it. And they called this group Majestic 12, supposedly. Now, all this is still speculation. There's never been a confirmation. So it's basically, Roswell, they have many statements that say what was on there, even though the government won't admit to it. Many people that were directly involved with it claimed, yes, it was some kind of craft. And there's been plenty of theories spun on it. I've heard that it was Russians, that Stalin created these, and that the aliens that were removed from there, the 4 aliens that were supposedly removed, were actually, genetically modified, like handicapped children. And I've heard Japanese, it was the Japanese, and so something crashed there, even though the government says it's a weather balloon. So anyways, all that stuff created, that's what spun off the Majestic 12, supposedly. The Majestic 12, or MJ12, is a supposed secret group that was selected by President Truman. They reported directly to President Truman. The group was made up of the most brilliant men of the military, scientific, and intelligence communities. The members of MJ12 had the highest U.S. government security clearance. You couldn't get anything any higher. The group was tasked with investigating and reverse engineering the alien technology recovered at the Roswell crash site, as well as containing and investigating any further UFO sightings. I think, just trying to get a hold of things before they got out of control, I would think, in that time period, for anything, any sightings or anything that could have happened that was similar to Roswell. This MJ12 has been speculated, that the existence of it has been speculated for many years, but there was never a paper trail, Obviously, the government is very good at letting people know what they want them to know and covering up what they don't want you to know. And usually that what they don't want you to know usually happens by removing any paper trail and not letting people know you have some secret something going on. All right, my throat is really dry. Sorry about that. However, the paper trail thing changed kind of. And this is all speculation, but there's a lot of things about it that match up. So, however, it all changed in December 1984. There was a guy named Jamie Shandera. I've heard him call his name pronounce it Shandera. He was a little-known documentary producer who received a mysterious package. Inside this package was undeveloped film, is what was in there. A little canister of undeveloped film. And after developing the film, the pictures that were on it were actually alleged government documents about a secret group called the Majestic 12. One of those documents is referred to as the Truman-Forrestal Memo. This memo is from President Truman to Secretary of Defense Forrestal. That was James Forrestal. The memo is basically giving authorization to form the Majestic 12, and that they are accountable to the President only. The order was dated September 24th, 1947. So you got that is July, August, September. So you got 2 months after the Roswell wreckage is taken by the government. And it was documented on that date, on September 24th, 1947. I guess, the happenings at the White House and meetings that the president have are well documented, and it is documented for that date that James Forrestal and Vannevar Bush met with President Truman on that date. So, the members in this document, it is listed. Well, I take that back. There was another document that was found that was in there called the Eisenhower Briefing Document, and this was when President-elect Eisenhower was taking over, was going to be taking over for Truman when he won the election. So there's a briefing document where he met with Truman also. And I guess this project MJ-12 was laid out for him. In that document, it lists the 12 members. So there's these 12 guys called the Majestic 12. The first one is, one of them is Admiral Roscoe H. Hillenkoetter. He was the first director of CIA, formed by the National Security Act in 1947. Dr. Vannevar Bush, who was an engineer and inventor. He was involved in the Manhattan Project, which was the first atomic bomb. Secretary of Defense, James F. Forrestal. He was Secretary of Defense for Truman, and he was the first Secretary of Defense for the U.S. General Nathan F. Twining. He was a U.S. Air Force general. And he eventually became the Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs. General Hoyt S. Vandenberg, who is a United States Air Force general and eventually the second director of the CIA. Dr. Detlev Bronk, he was a scientist, an educator, and an administrator, and he established biophysics as a discipline. Dr. Jerome Hunsaker, who was a U.S. airman, he graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy and was an MIT graduate. Mr. Sidney W. Sowers was an admiral and intelligence expert. He was executive secretary of National Security Council. Mr. Gordon Gray, who was assistant secretary of the Army under Truman. Dr. Donald Menzel. He was a theoretical astronomer and astrophysicist. General Robert M. Montague was a lieutenant general in the U.S. Army. And Dr. Lloyd V. Berkner, who was a physicist and engineer. The Eisenhower briefing document was dated November 18th, 1952. On this day, President-elect Eisenhower received a 45-minute briefing from, I guess, Truman, and General Twining was present during this briefing also, who was one of the Majestic 12. In this document, it is stated that on July 7th, 1947, a secret operation was launched to recover wreckage for a scientific investigation. And in this document, specific information is stated about the Roswell crash, including that 4 alien bodies, or as they are referred to in the document, extraterrestrial biological entities, were recovered. So you're probably asking, this Chandelier guy, what was up with him? Well, he really wasn't. He wasn't a UFO guy. He was a documentary maker, and he was actually getting ready to work on a fictional documentary or a fictional movie about UFOs or a UFO encounter. However, he was good friends with a guy named Bill Moore, who was a UFO researcher. And so then in 1985, which the beginning of 1985, so just a few months later, so he gets this stuff in 1984. Fast forward to the beginning of 1985, Bill Moore receives a postcard. And that postcard is postmarked from New Zealand. And the postcard has this cryptic message on it suggesting a trip to the National Archives in Washington, D.C. And specifically one box at the National Archives. It's box 189. And that box is like a folder box. So, the archives have all kinds of stuff there. But box 189 is a document box. And it has all these manila like file folders inside of it. And they get that box and look, and they're looking through there. Well, in between two of those manila folders, folded over, is another document that's shoved down in there, which looks like it was staged. It was planted there for them to find. And that memo becomes known as the Cutler-Twining memo. Like I said, it's stuck down in the box in between two folders. This memo was written in July 1954 by Robert Cutler, who was a special assistant for national security affairs for President Eisenhower. So now Eisenhower is actually in office. The memo was notification of an upcoming MJ-12 briefing with President Eisenhower. And as you know, that it was said that when this was formed, it was formed to only report to the president with the highest level of security than the U.S., the highest top secret security clearance. The memo was addressed to General Twining, an alleged member of the MJ-12. The memo definitely appeared to be out of place since it was not in a specific folder like all the other documentation in that box, but it was between two folders and folded over in half. It's very interesting that the MJ-12 documents show up on the scene. They showed up just after the death of the last living MJ-12 member, Jerome Hunsaker. So after they found that document in the National Archives. Stan Freeman interviewed or talked to the people at the archives, asking about the access to that box. If they had log, I guess, when it was last accessed. And they told him it was accessed around the end of September 1984. Well, this is just 2 weeks after Hunsecker's death, which was September 10th of 1984. Then, you get the postcard delivered to Bill Moore at the beginning of 1985, which is a few months later. So, and it came from New Zealand. So, yeah, it's 1947. I don't know about the mailing system then, but, you have this postcard that came from New Zealand, postmarked from New Zealand. So I don't know how the mail went, but it kind of lines up. It's very suspicious that everything came out after Hunsecker's death. So it almost makes you feel he's the last remaining MJ12 guy alive that maybe, he knew that and just said, it's time to try to leak some of this out, and maybe somebody will be interested in it. I don't know. It's speculation, but if not, at least it's cool to think that that's what happened. It's also interesting. There's a couple of interesting things about the whole deal, So that's kind of basically how the whole MJ12 thing came out. Whether or not it's legit or not, nobody knows. I mean, nobody knows. And there's been plenty of people that have tried to say this documentation is not legit. There's been people that review and say, "Oh, they're obvious hoax." I've seen hoaxes much better than this. This is just sloppy and periods after dates, and this is not done in military date, which is usually the day of the month, and then the year. But then there's other documentation. So, well, that's just how it is. Not all the documents going to conform to standard. I mean, anyways, so there's arguments on both sides of the thing. I mean, I'm not saying either way. It's kind of cool to think about, and these are just the facts. This is what happened, and anyways. But it's also interesting to note that Donald Menzel, who was one of the supposed MJ12 members, was author of 3 anti-UFO books. And through some digging, it was discovered that he had consulted with NSA for over 30 years. So it appears, if these documents are true, that Menzel might have been living somewhat of a double life. However, if you were going to form, top secret group to work on a project like this about UFOs and the crash and anything going forward, you would want somebody that's familiar with the NSA and who's worked with them on that team. And a number of the guys that were, the first 3 CIA directors were on MJ12. If that group existed. So yeah, makes sense to me. Also of interest about the MJ12 or Majestic 12 is the Defense Secretary for Truman, James Forrestal, resigned that position in March 1949. In April of that same year, he was admitted to the Bethesda Naval Hospital for mental health issues. On May 22nd, 1949, he jumped to his death out of that hospital window. I don't know about you, but for some reason, that seems very suspicious. You have a guy who's gone through all his life. I'm sure he went to college, and I don't know what level, but he went to college or some kind of academy, Naval Academy or whatever, I don't know. And he attained the position of Secretary of Defense of the United States of America. He's the first Secretary of Defense. And then all of a sudden he starts having mental health issues after being appointed to this highly secretive group to investigate potential visitation by extraterrestrials. And then within a matter of a couple months, he ends up dead because of a quote-unquote suicide. Highly, highly suspicious to me. However, that mystery is going to go like Majestic 12. You're never probably going to know the truth of that. Somebody probably did, I'm sure, at some point, but those people are probably no longer with us, I would imagine, and doubt it was ever documented. So that's that's pretty much the Majestic 12 and how it got started. And you know, if it's, yeah, who knows if those documents are true, if they're hoaxes. It seems kind of a crazy way of doing a hoax. I kind of lean towards there probably is some truth to that. And you know, you have some Air Force guys that are saying, you know, have come across it over the years and saying that you know, it's all bogus, and it just goes along with Roswell, saying it's a weather balloon and stuff. I think it's just probably just disinformation, or, you know, just typical trying to cover things up. I mean, it makes sense that if you had an event going like this and you have hundreds of sightings and then you have a supposed crash and you got people freaking out about it, that you'd want to form a group to get a handle on this, you know, especially if it's not if it's a foreign entity or, you know, extraterrestrials, supposed extraterrestrials. I mean, it is what it is. So, but here's some interesting facts about Roswell. We'll probably do an episode just about Roswell because this is a fascinating thing. I probably done these episodes backwards. I probably should have done one on Roswell and then done one on the Majestic 12, but it is what it is. The flight logs for General Twining, who was one of the Majestic 12 supposedly, even though they hadn't been formed at this point, because supposedly the order wasn't signed until September 1947, the flight logs for General Twining show that he flew from Wrights Field in Ohio to Alamogordo Army Airfield, New Mexico, which is about 100 miles from Roswell. He was there from July 7th to July 10th. I mean, July 11th. I'm sorry. So, that, you know, when those investigators were called to that ranch and they probably saw what they saw, you know, they probably immediately reported back, and he was involved because he was, he was at Wrights Field or whatever, and that was supposed the base actually of MJ-12. So who knows? Maybe MJ-12 was already kind of in the works, but the actual official order wasn't signed until September. I don't know, but Twining had, you know, there's another documentation, some more documentation where he had contacted a friend of his who was at Boeing, and I guess he was like a buddy, went, you know, would go on trips with, fishing or hunting or something, I don't know, and they had something pre-planned, and when this came up, he had contacted him and said, look, I can't meet up with you, I can't go do whatever we were going to do. Something of quote unquote great importance has come up and I can't be there. So, you know, that kind of adds credence to the whole MJ-12 thing, because why would they fly this guy from Wrights Field in Ohio to, even though he didn't fly right to Roswell Army Airfield, he flew to Alamogordo Army Airfield, which is just 100 miles away. He was there for, you know, the 7th through the 11th of July of 1947. So basically the time while they were collecting all that debris is probably why they brought him in. These guys went out there and they went with Mac Brazel and he showed them the stuff. They got these 2 boxes of stuff and they were like, man, this is a weird stuff. They report back. General Twining gets put on a plane, sent down there, and is probably in charge of the crew that cleans up the rest of the debris and sends that back to Wright Field. In fact, the trip that Jesse Marcel, where he left and went from Roswell to Fort Worth, that's the only log that is there. It's from Roswell to Fort Worth. There's no log of him going from Fort Worth to Wrights Field in Ohio. However, there's FBI documentation supposedly that says that flight took place. Don't know. Also interesting is that while investigating the Roswell thing, supposedly, I think Stanton Freeman's group went back to try to get the logs of all incoming, outgoing communications from Roswell's Army airfield. Nothing exists from 1947 to 1949. So it was completely, all outgoing messages were completely erased. They're just gone. Or if they're there, they're not accessible to anybody. So it's crazy. I mean, it screams cover up. But anyways, also interesting is that Mac Brazel was detained by the military police for a number of days, not 100 days, a number of days, and was interrogated extensively. He was supposedly told to never talk about the wreckage he found. And he passed in 1963, I believe it was, and never spoke about that wreckage the rest of his life. So whoever interrogated him or talked to him, they must put the fear in him, you know, that what could happen to him, I guess. So I mean, I know we kind of got off on tangent about Roswell, but that's kind of the basis for MJ12. That's where it all came from. That's where the secret organization. I don't know when it was disbanded. I mean, you barely knew it existed just from these leaked documents. So who knows? I mean, but obviously Hunsaker died in 1984, so I doubt they were still actively doing this. You know, a lot of them died years and years before that. So it's interesting. It's an interesting moment in the history of the U.S. government. And if something like this was truly formed and existed, I mean, it kind of falls in line with what people report about Men in Black and, you know, having sightings and then have these people show up at your door and, you know, tell you didn't see what you saw. I don't know. You know, that could have been spawned, but maybe this seems like it could have been the stepping stone, you know, the first step of an organization, a secret organization like that. I mean, I was reading somewhere, I don't know if it was a book, an article talking about black budgets in the government, and I read in the 90s the NSA had a black budget of like 10 to 15 billion dollars. It was totally just not existing on the books. That's incredible. I mean, you don't know what's going on out there. And I mean, I can't fault the government. I mean, you really can't, you know, because people, even though you like to know, yeah, they've got their reasons. I mean, I don't know if it's all legit or if it's, yeah, who knows. But that's the Majestic 12. There's one other little interesting fact I ran across. This is about Roswell also, and specifically Mac Brazel, who was the rancher that found the crash. I don't know how I ran across this. This is one of those freak things, but the interesting fact is that WW, quote unquote, Mac Brazel, as he was called, was the nephew of Jesse Wayne Brazel. Jesse Wayne Brazel was an American, like a Western rancher, out in the West of America, and he confessed in 1908 to fatally shooting former lawman Pat Garrett. Well, Pat Garrett in 1881 is the man who tracked down and killed William H. Bonney, or a.k.a. Billy the Kid. So that's kind of interesting, that little blurb there, that connection, that Mac Brazel is actually the nephew of the man that killed Pat Garrett, who is the man that killed Billy the Kid. Anyways, that's it. So I thought that was pretty cool. Thought I would throw that in there, even though it has no relevance to what we just talked about. Anyways, as usual, we hope you guys like what we do. Some of you have written to us and have expressed that, and we greatly appreciate that. We love hearing from people. we'd like to hear from more. You can reach us, as I said, on our email, unexplained.reality@yahoo.com. You can hit us up on Facebook. Just look for the Unexplained Reality page, which I hope to change to a group this weekend. You can hit us on Instagram. You can hit us on Twitter. We're all, you can look for Unexplained Reality. The best way is just hit the show notes, and you'll see all the links to everything on there. We got YouTube channel, Patreon. If you feel like throwing a couple dollars at us, that would be awesome, because we do it free, but the hosting costs, we do pay hosting costs every month. And we do have, or do wish to start a website. I've actually already purchased the domain, just got to take the time to build it and host that, so that'll be additional money. So let's see. Also, you can catch us on our favorite, whatever podcaster you're listening to us on, or podcatcher. If you have the means to rate and review us, I would appreciate it. If not, if you can go to iTunes and rate and review us, that'd be awesome, because it helps tremendously to boost our rating, to boost our ranking, and to get us moved up the flagpole there, so to speak. And it gets us visible to more people, which will hopefully get us more listeners, and allow us to bring you more content, better content, and just and hopefully get this webpage up and running, and create like a blog, and put a lot of this information out there. Even the stuff we don't have in our episodes, we could be able to we'll be able to post it and provide just more information, more ways of talking to us and meeting up with us. And so if you have an experience, you have a story, you just want to talk, just want to comment, want to come on the show for interview or anything, hit us up on unexplained.reality@yahoo.com, or on any of the social media I mentioned already. I guess that's going to be a wrap. Harrison should be back Saturday, I think, from his adventure down on the coast. And we'll probably be recording with me again next weekend, unless he's got some other adventure lined up. Haven't seen him very much this summer. He's been enjoying himself with his grandparents, and so he's only got a couple weeks. He'll be back to school and back to it, so he'll be with me every week recording when that comes. I'd like to thank Ricky Young for letting us use his music, so check him out, rickyyoungmusic.com. Let him feel the love, because he's a great musician. And like to thank, as usual, the podcast we listen to. And I've stated many times, if you're listening to us, then you definitely should be listening to them, which I doubt. I doubt you'd be listening to us and not have any knowledge of them. But if you don't, for some reason, you need to go check all of these out, because they're all great, and they all have different methods of doing their show and different content, and they're all really, really high class. It would be Sasquatch Chronicles, Into the Fray Radio, Saswhat, The Grayland Report, Mysterious Universe. The Cryptid Factor has come back on. That's very amusing. I like to listen to that one. Monsters Among Us, The Confessionals, Somewhere in the Skies, and I'm probably going to miss something. OK Talk, that's one of them. Yeah, I was about to miss that one. And I believe that is it. So, once again, thanks for listening. Thanks for the comments. Keep them coming. If you have a request for a show, an episode that you want us to do, a subject matter, hit us up. Send us an email. Hit us up on social media. Let us know, and we'll get to it. If you have a story or encounter that you think we would like to hear about, which we would. We're open-minded. We'd like to hear about whatever. Just hit us up and we'll talk about it. We'll set something up and get together. So anyways, I hope everybody has a good week, and I guess that'll be a wrap. We'll let Ricky take us away, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks.
Another week of eating dust comes to an end. Stop the track to grab my truck and head to my friends. Top off the tank and buy a 12-pack. You know I just can't wait to throw a few back. Ain't much to do Friday nights, but we do it up and we do it up right. Doing the same old thing. Tailgate backed up to the river. And the doors wide open, whiskey and the girls and the country flowing, doing the same old thing. Reach behind the seat and break out a little shine. Get them country girls to feeling right, and they'll start dancing around.